afternoon. This is Dr. James Judge.
And this is Dr. Kalie Judge.
And we are here with Tea Time with the Judges.
Welcome.
And our topic today is flu shot or not. Now, this is a very controversial subject. And I just want to set the frame with letting you know that we are just giving you information that we know to be true. Okay, so again, my mantra is ignorance is bliss until it affects your health. So we want to make sure we empower you with information so you can make an informed decision on what you want to do with this season's flu.
Yeah, I did that right again. My goodness. Okay, so he hit it right on the nail, and that's what I kept thinking about all morning today, is that I just want to make sure that this message is clear, that we've only got about 30 minutes to give you a boatload of information. Yeah. So clearly we don't have every single research article, we don't have all of this stuff to hand to you guys, but we want to, you have to start taking control and make sure that you are going out there and educating yourself. I think there's way too many people that are just walking around blindly and seeing signs all over the community telling you to come in and get a flu shot, you get a $25 gift card, and we're just driven by this stuff. And I was thinking also too is that one thing that I realize that we do in our lives is that we don't live by what's advertised.
Yeah.
You know, our food isn't what's advertised, our clothing isn't what's advertised, our beauty products is not what you see on TV. It's the complete opposite. You surely don't see billboards for the stuff that we're doing in our lives.
I was actually driving home from my lake this morning, and I was driving by a few shops, and there's a cigarette shop over here, there's McDonald's over here, there's fast food restaurant over here, another one I won't name, but again, what are we addicted to? We're addicted to this fast food, fast addictive lifestyle, and what are we also addicted to is fear. And I think that the news media puts a lot of fear into us, telling us that we need these things like the flu shot, because if we don't get them, we're going to die. When we think about things like the H1N1 virus, or the swine flu, or the bird flu, and all these things that were supposed to wipe us all out, well, guess what? We're still here. You know, yesterday I glanced up at the sun just to prove that I'm not going to go blind if I check it out real quick, and I don't need these special glasses to make that, you know, happen. I saw it, I'm still here, you know, whether it does something 20 years from now, who knows. But again, we just turn on these news stations and we're riddled by fear. And I don't want you to be afraid. I want you to live a life without fear. I want you to live a life that says, hey, my body has everything that it needs to heal. And as soon as I think that it doesn't, that's when we believe that we need something outside of us that's created by this thing called the FDA and the CDC that are making trillions of dollars a year on, right? Just inducing fear into more people. And we're going to break it down for you guys to make it make sense. So to explain what are actually in, and we're just going to talk about one vaccine today. We're not going to talk about all the other vaccines that your children get before the time they are 16 years old. It's 49 different live viruses that are injected into your kids today. And chances are, if you're above 30 years old, you only got about 10 when you were a kid. So why are they increasing so much? Again, it's this money thing, and it's fear.
You know, talking on fear, in 2011 they reported that there were 60,000 people that died of the flu. And once they dug into those statistics, what the reality was is that there was really only 18 people that died from the flu. And what they're doing is taking anybody that had any respiratory illness and attaching that to a flu issue and counting that in their scoreboard. And so you got to really look into those numbers, and you don't believe stuff that you see on these mega media news stations, because this stuff is designing us to kind of just like, it's like playing a game and moving people with everything. And this is not just flu or vaccine conversation, but we do know how sensitive this conversation is. Yeah. And so we want to pay attention to that and just give you guys the empowerment to do this and know what is actually going in there.
And that brings a question to my mind. Did they really die from the flu? Right? Why can one person, and have you ever asked yourself this question, why can one person in the same household continue to get sick and continue to get these symptoms that are caused by the flu virus, and the other person in the same household never gets it at all? What's the difference? It's the same virus, but there's a difference in the person, right? The health within of that person that's either expressing symptoms or not expressing symptoms. So what about those 18 people that died from the flu? I guarantee you their immune system wasn't as strong as the people that don't even get symptoms when they're exposed to the flu virus. And that's the thing. It's like some people get exposed to the flu virus, have zero symptoms. And again, some people have all of these symptoms that cause, vomiting, diarrhea, we've got headaches, we've got high fevers, a lot of symptoms happen and they suck. But you have to remember that those sucky symptoms are your body trying to get rid of the flu virus naturally. And those are the things we want to, because we've been taught to suppress. But it's actually a good reaction. Anything to add there?
Yeah, just again, like we've got to start being more confident in how powerful the power inside of our body is.
Right.
My shirt says "Fear no evil," and we literally want you guys to start living a life without fear. Dr. James and I, we don't walk around here worrying about when I'm touching a germ. Could you imagine if we worried about every single germ that we touched every single day? Like, we would be living in a bubble and not have this amazing practice. Because we have, like last night, I had this little boy come in and get adjusted for the first time ever in his life. And he came in and he had a nose full of snot. And if I was afraid of that getting me sick in any way, I would have put gloves on and a gown and a mask on. But that wasn't the case. I dove right in there. I was like, give me his spine. Let me check to see where the interference is. Let's clear that up. And I have no doubt in my mind that that kid is going to walk in here today and not have any snot in his nose.
So our goal first is, again, empower you to understand symptoms are okay. But more importantly, we want to teach you ways to empower your body to never have symptoms, even if it is exposed to the flu virus. Okay? So again, why can one person in one household get symptoms from the flu virus and the other person that's exposed to the same flu virus never gets symptoms? Well, that person that never gets symptoms, their immune system reacts quickly and it's gone before it even knows it. Okay? The person that has to flush, that's what I'm going to call this diarrhea and vomiting and heat that we have with fevers and the flu. We have to flush it out because, again, there was viruses created in your body and now your body has to go into overdrive. So again, that immune system in that person was weaker. So yeah, we want to empower you with information to keep your immune system healthy so you never have to experience those symptoms, because guess what? You're going to be exposed to hundreds of different flu viruses this year. And that takes me into the next thing that we're going to talk about. What are in the flu vaccines? And there's only 4 different strands of the virus. Okay? One is the H1N1 strand A that comes from Michigan. It's made in Michigan. Number 2 is flu strand A H3N1 that comes from Hong Kong. And then flu strand B comes from Brisbane, and flu strand B again comes from Phuket. So there's all these strands from all over the world. Why do we do it? Why do we want to get one from here, one from here, and one from here? Because they say that, the more diverse we are with that, the more protected we are. Now, here's the first problem. How do you think they get the flu virus to grow in a laboratory on a chicken embryo, which we'll talk about later? Where do they get it from?
Well, it's a live virus to start off with.
Right. So how long do you think it takes to manufacture millions of these vaccines? Years. So the average vaccine is 2 years. Actually, the average virus that they put in the vaccine is 2 years old. So they're using last year's and the year before's vaccine to handle this year's flu.
Now let me clear something up. So you're talking about how there's hundreds, if not thousands, of strands, and so they're only picking 3 of those.
4.
3 to 4 of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's literally guesswork that it is.
Yeah.
And they're not. The accuracy of it working, I mean, you can go into some of the top immunologists and their research in this, and they are saying that this is complete destruction.
Yeah. 5 years ago, I remember that they guessed wrong, and we had this huge flu epidemic. Everyone was sick. And guess what? We guessed wrong, yet we injected these people with all of these different things that we're going to talk about today, just simply guessing. And to me, guessing isn't okay because, again, you're going to be exposed to hundreds, if not thousands, of different flu viruses per year.
Now, one thing I want to just highlight here, as far as the education process goes, this book that I have, it's called Vaccination is Not Immunization. It's by Dr. Tim O'Shea. I think you can get it right on Amazon or Google it. If you need a resource, let me know. But this is my favorite book when it comes to vaccines of all shapes and sizes, including the flu shot. But I want to read through this part of it, and I think that this can help us kind of tackle the rest of the show here. There's two different parts here. Either the body can learn its own immunity, or else it is enormously inadequate and requires help from the genius of medical science for survival. Now, he's going to go into the difference between immunization and vaccination, because a lot of times people are saying that these words are interchangeable, and it's completely false. Immunization means that the body becomes immune to something all by itself. That only happens after getting a disease, or at least getting exposed to it. Vaccination, by contrast, just means to stick a needle into somebody's arm and inject a man-made substance we call vaccine. And so I think that people have the misconception that once they get a vaccine, they're becoming immune to it, which is not technically the case, because really what's happening is that it's sending in a Th2 response, which is really an emergency response source, and it's not a long-lasting lifetime response. Go ahead.
Rather than getting the flu virus naturally and creating the response naturally that the body creates. And isn't it ironic that medicine, quote unquote, is using what the body already knows to be true and knows how to work with to their advantage with these vaccines?
And I think it's similar to what we do with everything else. We want everything done quicker,
Yeah.
right? We go to the fast food restaurant because we want food in 30 seconds for $1.99 instead of going to
Right.
the grocery store and cooking it ourselves. It's the same
I
concept
can't
with that.
I can't handle having this for 3 days. I've got to work and create all of this stuff, and I can't let my body go through this process of natural immunity because I just don't have time for it, because I got to work and I've got kids, and let's go inject myself with all of these things that I have no idea, no clue what's in them, no idea, no clue what actually, what those things cause, right? So again, it's just we have to really sit back and understand exactly why and how these things are created.
Now, before you go into the ingredients, I know I hear this a lot, is that the flu is, or the side effects from a flu shot, I would rather take my chances with that than with actually getting the flu.
Right.
So maybe that can kind of help you dive in and start going into the ingredients with everything that we have going on here.
Well, let's go. I already went through the first part of it, right? Those flus, A, B, and B from all over the world. Number 2 is formaldehyde. And I was doing research today, and the CDC is out there, and they hire ghostwriters to put these articles out there defending why these things are in the flu virus. So you can get a bunch of different articles saying, yeah, well, it's natural. It's in pears, you're going to get twice as much as but formaldehyde if you eat 1 pear than you do in an entire round of shots for your kids. And okay, well, let's take that mindset and just go a step further, right? Eating a pear, what does it have to do after you eat that stuff? And let's say formaldehyde is in it. What does it have to go through before it gets to your bloodstream?
It has to get broken down, go through your GI system, and
Right.
then go through your liver and detox and all
It's
this
exposed to your
stuff.
stomach acid, right? It's broken down and it's denatured. It goes through your liver and your kidneys, and it's probably completely gone before you get it into the bloodstream at all, right? So then think about this. Taking formaldehyde and injecting it right into the bloodstream where it didn't have the chance to go through that process. And this is the same theme that we're going to go through with all of these different ingredients. They study the natural. Well, injecting something into your bloodstream, that's definitely not natural. That's going against the design. And we teach our patients all the time, as long as you go against the design, we build disease.
I was just thinking on how to kind of laugh, talking about the pear and having formaldehyde in it. Yet, if you ask somebody if we put a cup full of all the ingredients in the flu shot,
Right.
if you ask them to drink this, there would be no way that they would do that on the planet, right?
Well, let's inject it, but let's not drink it.
Because
Why?
that's
It's
bad for
probably
you.
actually safer to drink because, again, it has to go through your detoxification system. The formaldehyde in the pear is also natural formaldehyde. The formaldehyde in the shot is synthetic. So again, you're injecting synthetic stuff, just like these synthetic flavors that we have in our kids' food. A bunch of different differences that happen there. So, anything else to add with formaldehyde?
Nope.
What does it do?
So in the flu vaccine, so what it's used for with formaldehyde and mercury, it's used to actually kill the virus.
Doesn't kill it completely. it
attenuates it.
right. So that means it's very weak once it's injected into your bloodstream. So it doesn't kill it completely. Cool.
What's next?
Next is aluminum salts.
Aluminum. Mercury, aluminum causes cognitive dysfunction, so brain dysfunction, right? And so the big thing is that usually like methyl mercury is what we find in our like fish and in the environment.
Right.
And yes, it's harmful to our bodies, but what they're putting in the actual flu shot and vaccines is ethyl mercury. And now
Really?
the problem with that is that is able to cross the blood-brain barrier and get stuck in your brain, and that's where we're seeing the connection between Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all these other brain dysfunctions.
Yeah,
there.
aluminum is different than that though. Doing research, right, aluminum is in your drinking water. That's what they say on this site that I saw. So it's okay if it's in your vaccine. Again, it goes through the detoxification process if you drink it, but it doesn't go through that. So here's just a research article that I'm going to quote here. A new paper by the Girardi Research Group in France reports that important results on the toxicity and transport of aluminum adjuvant in mice. This study is especially valuable because it looked at many outcomes: behavioral effects, immune activation in the brain, AI transport into the brain. The study tested dosage of 200, 400, and 800 micrograms of aluminum when it was injected intramuscularly. The aluminum adjuvant was used, the AIOH brand, the commonly used vaccine adjuvant in the same tetanus. So these are the vaccines that's used in Hep A, Hep B, HIB, pneumococcal, meningococcal, and anthrax vaccines. Remarkably, the study found that the lowest dosage, 200 micrograms, was the most toxic. The 400 and the 800 microgram doses produced no statistically significant effects, but the 200 microgram dose did. And why is this? Because if it gets above 200 micrograms, it creates a granuloma. So your body is defending itself against it. Small amounts, your body doesn't have the ability to detect, so it gets into the bloodstream and has the chance to get into your cells, tissues, and organs, and these things are held in your brain as well. So number 3 is gelatin. Okay, so most flu vaccines contain a pig-based collagen as their stabilizers. So if you have problems with pork, right, most of the collagen that's in your vaccine is due to, or coming from the pork bone, and it helps preserve the vaccine. Anything to add with that? Okay, then we'll go into thimerosal, so let's talk about that. Yeah, we did. That's okay.
I was just excited to talk about mercury.
I know. Again, this is the most controversial. It's been since 1970 since we've been studying thimerosal. So we'll go through this in detail, but go ahead.
So when we talk about mercury, you know, we have, it's not good at all. Mercury and aluminum both cause cognitive dysfunction. So that's with both of those things. And when we talk about mercury, again, it's ethyl mercury that they're putting in these shots. And the reason why they're putting mercury in these shots is to sanitize and allow them to be preserved, right? So what I was reading yesterday, I was sharing this with my team, and I got pretty heated when I was going through this because of their response and their reaction to this. And the reason why they're putting thimerosal in there is to prevent contamination. And the idea behind that is that if I had a vial and I kept putting a different needle in there, every single time that you put a needle in there to get the dosage out, it has the ability to contaminate the shot. And so when that happens, you've got to have something in there that's going to kill whatever gets in there. But the problem with that is that that's going to affect your brain. It's going to affect your nervous system. It's going to affect your body from healing and functioning. They're saying even with aluminum, so aluminum and mercury combined, if you get 5 consecutive flu shots, you're going to be at a 10 times higher percentage rate to be getting Alzheimer's than anybody else.
Mercury poisoning has been linked to cardiovascular disease, autism, seizures, mental retardation, hyperactivity, dyslexia, and many other nervous system conditions. That's why the FDA rigorously limits exposure to mercury in foods and drugs. Some common sources of mercury include dental amalgam fillings. I have mine out completely
Me
because
too.
of that. Various vaccines and certain fish contaminated by the polluted water oceans. And this is banned in almost all other countries except the United States. Why do you think that is?
Because they know that it's bad.
No, why do you think it's allowed here?
Oh, because you want me to get in that
Yeah, I do.
conversation? I think that it's allowed here because just like everything else, there, you know,
It creates a cheaper vaccine to make. And it
And there's
stays
a
on the
whole bunch of
shelf.
other
Yeah, and it,
stuff.
right, and it stays on the shelf. I don't want to get into
Yeah.
that, like crazy theories, but the main concern is just money and how long it takes to you know, shelf life is why thimerosal is
let
there
me
as
read
well.
this. This is directly off of the CDC website. There is no evidence that small amounts of thimerosal and flu vaccines cause any harm, except for minor reactions in redness and swelling in the injection site. Although no evidence suggests that there are safety concerns with thimerosal, vaccine manufacturers have stopped putting them in most other vaccines, except for the flu shot. And the fact that they're saying that there's no evidence that this stuff causes any harm, there's no evidence that it doesn't cause any harm. They haven't done any long-term studies on the effect of thimerosal and mercury and aluminum on the body. They're not doing their due diligence in figuring out what this stuff is, and they're not being responsible and telling you guys what it does to your body.
Well, in 1977, a Russian study found that adults exposed to ethyl mercury, the form of mercury that's in our vaccines, suffered brain damage years later. Right? Studies of thimerosal poisoning also described tubular necrosis and nervous system injury, including obtundation, coma, and death. As a result of these findings, Russia banned thimerosal from children's vaccines in 1980, the year before I was even born, so 36 years ago. But Eli Lilly stuck to its scientific facts and said, hey, this doesn't affect anything, and it's okay for all of our kids here in America to take. Trace amounts of mercury in infants are found. You know, and we have to think about this stuff. You know, when are we exposed to the first vaccine, the flu shot? Well, pregnant mothers are supposed to get their flu vaccine. And then the first day you're born, hepatitis B contains thimerosal as well. So think about that. You know, you get a hepatitis B vaccine, and again, we're really focusing on just the flu shot. But how do you get hepatitis B? It's through sexual contact and dirty needles, basically. So it's blood transfusion, whatever. So again, when's the last time you saw an infant doing any of that stuff?
You know, they're saying that these heavy metals stick with us for at least 4 generations on the mother side. And so that's why they're seeing babies, you know, they're testing the umbilical cord and seeing up to 120 toxins already in their system when they're going through this. Lead being one of the biggest things, and then mercury following that, and formaldehyde and aluminum following that. So yeah.
So, and again, we're just doing the research here. National Vaccine Information Center in Vienna, Virginia has noted a strong association between MMR vaccine and autistic features. So, reporting finds encephalitis, so swelling in the brain, and a bunch of different problems. And for me, I was witness to this about 4 years into practice, and we teach people this all the time. And a little girl went in, got scared into getting these shots. Right? MMR vaccine, flu shot, I think 12 different viruses were injected her one day. And the next day she couldn't use the right side of her entire body. And she was in braces. She still doesn't have complete function of her entire body. And I've seen that in multiple different things. And there's a great movie out there, if you want to learn more about this, called Vaxxed, V-A-X-X-E-D. Look at the trailers and watch this for yourself. I think it's on Amazon Prime right now. And you know, again, just educate yourself and see both sides of the story and what's going on out there with this stuff. Autism affects 500,000 to 1.5 million. So that's a lot, you know. It's grown an annual rate of 10 to 17% since the 1980s. California found that 273% increase in autism between 1987 and 1998. So 10 years, basically, it grew 273%. Maryland reported 513%, that's 513% increase in autism between 1993 and 1998. And several dozen other states reported similar findings. Some scientists say that the estimated number of cases of autism has increased 15-fold. So 1,500% since 1991, when the number of childhood vaccines doubled. Whereas 1 in every 250 children were diagnosed with autism before 1991, 1 in 166 children now have the disease. And it said within the next 5 years that 1 out of every 34 boys will be diagnosed on the autistic spectrum. So again, guys, we have to really, again, educate ourselves. And is this a coincidence? I think not. I don't think it's ironic that when the vaccine schedule doubled, that we rapidly increased the rate of autism throughout the entire United States. It's not a coincidence that that has happened.
So, talking about statistics, I want to go into the money aspect of it too. In 1975, per child, we were spending $10 on vaccines. That's for the whole entire life. In 1975. 2001, it was $385 per child for vaccines. 2004, it was $606 per child for vaccines. 2011, it was $1,200 per child per vaccine, or for their entire vaccines. This year, it's over $2,000 that we're spending on our children to get them vaccinated. This is, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was talking about vaccines, and they're like, this is like when you have like a baby moose and you have a mother moose, and like we're poking the baby moose right now with the medical system and things like that. This is their baby. This is how they get people and keep people for their whole entire life. Because talk about even like the toxic load every single year, getting vaccine after vaccine after vaccine put into your system that your body cannot handle. Your body is not designed to process toxic material. It cannot do it. And so it's going to need help to defend that over time, to help get your liver to work the way it's supposed to help get the heavy metals out of there. Because as soon as you get toxic substances into your body, it wants to go get nice and cozy, and that's where it gets into fat cells and it gets into the rest of your body, and it does not want to leave, and it crosses the blood-brain barrier, and that affects how you're thinking. If you're depressed, if you have Alzheimer's, dementia, all of this stuff is directly correlated to what we're speaking on today.
Yeah, and they say that, I've always asked the question, why can one person, you might be asking this yourself as well, why can my one baby get all the vaccines and be fine, and the next baby have autism, And I think the best answer for that is that we're all not created 100% equal biologically. You think about a little baby that has an allergy to peanuts, and then your other child has no problem eating all of the nuts that they can eat, So why is that happening? Because their immune response is completely different. So why can one person get autism and the other person that gets the same vaccine not? Well, their immune response is different. And it also has been linked to the rate that your blood-brain barrier is closing. And some kids don't get their blood-brain barrier completely closed till even after 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. So how do we know completely when to introduce that shot or that vaccine or the schedule of vaccines into your child? It just doesn't make any sense. And again, I'm not really fighting vaccines. I'm fighting the ingredients that are in the vaccines and the way that they're produced and the lack of testing to see if they're okay for our kids.
Yeah, even just talking about the peanut allergy thing, a lot of times the reason why kids have peanut allergies is because they use peanut oil to preserve the vaccines with, so they're getting shot into their system, and it's creating an autoimmune response. And so that's why we've seen such a high jack in peanut allergies.
Right.
You can't eat peanuts on a plane anymore.
We talked about the chicken embryo too. So if people are allergic to eggs, they grow these viruses on chicken embryos because that virus eats the embryo, or it nourishes itself off of that. So again, I don't know how natural it is to take a chicken embryo and inject it into your bloodstream. I just don't understand it.
And not even just chicken embryos, but they're also using human aborted fetal tissue to do this stuff with.
And they don't say that.
That's ethically just
literally
not
aborted
okay with me.
Yeah. Antibiotics is the last ingredient that are in your vaccines. And why do we use those antibiotics? Well, it's because we want to counteract the bacteria that's growing on the chicken embryo to make sure that they're not in your vaccines that you inject into it, right? So again, we want to reduce the bacteria. But again, we talk about antibiotics, and I have a problem with those things. And again, I believe that they're useful in an emergency situation. So if you've got gangrene growing on your your arm or your leg, or you've got a severe infection, then those are good, right? That's an emergency. We always say that. But recurrent ear infections, you're taking antibiotics for. Most of them are used. Most of them are caused by viral infections that these antibiotics don't even touch, right? If you've got bacterial infections that you continue to take these antibiotics for, it's reducing your immunity naturally and normally to that. So the more use of antibiotics, and it's been said that 4 or 5 rounds of antibiotics increases your chance 50% of getting cancer later because of the reduction of the immune system that you'll have.
Yeah, we're destroying our digestive system, which is destroying our immune system because that's where it lives, and we just keep like throwing punches at our body and then wondering why it's not working the way it's supposed to, not responding. And
so that comes to the end of our talk here. There's a lot to talk about. We could be doing this for 3 hours or longer now, and probably going to get some heat on the internet by this, but we're empowered to teach you and explain to you exactly what we know and what we believe and what we hope that you understand, and will go empower yourself with the knowledge to make an informed decision. And that's all what we're doing here. We're not saying do this or do that. We're just saying, hey, inform yourself of what these things are. Don't just look at the CDC's website. Make sure that you're going all over the place and informing yourself with this information, because again, the CDC is biased, FDA is biased. They want to make and create protection for themselves. So look at the unbiased studies that are out there. And go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish.
I mean, that's it for me. And for me, I want to empower you with that information to continue to change your life.
Yeah, so I think I talked about this on last week's episode, just about the trash can. And if we have a trash can that's full of trash, and it's going to attract mice. And so instead of just removing the mice from the trash can, because as soon as you remove them, there's going to be more mice that come at it. So that means it's got a weakened state. It's a perfect environment for that kind of stuff to thrive in. So instead of just removing the outside sources, we have to remove the source of what's attracting that. So remove the garbage from the trash can. So your body has the ability to heal. You've got to just make sure that you're giving it the right stuff, that you're providing it the potential to be able to heal, that you're not putting garbage in it. We had a mom speak at our last event, and something that she said that has stuck with me, that I think was probably the most powerful thing anybody could have said, was, yes, our family has chosen not to do vaccines, but that doesn't mean that we can be ignorant to not living a healthy life. And so we get adjusted, we exercise, we eat well, we make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, we read, we go to church, we do all this stuff, so they're not being ignorant to just not getting the flu vaccine or not getting a vaccine. There's a responsibility, if you're not doing that, to live a healthy life, to pour into yourself and make sure that you're doing that.
I always say that the best cure for cancer is never getting diagnosed. How do you not get diagnosed? Well, it's empowering your body to work efficiently and effectively so your body can function correctly. And again, function is the most important word that you can ever learn when it correlates with your health, because if you have 100% function, you are going to be 100% healthy. There's no way, no buts about that, right? 100% function equals 100% health. You are given the strength that you need, the immune system that you need, the circulatory system that you need, the power that you need to heal, right? So we say that the power that made the body heals your body. But we want to go against the design and think we're more powerful and more educated than the wisdom that's inside of us. And that's where we get it wrong. So the best cure for the flu is not getting injected with all of these things. The best cure for your flu is to empower your body to function and heal like God intended it. And that's from above down, inside out. That's not from outside in, injectables or chewables or rub it on your skin, right? That's not where health comes from. Health comes from within. And we always end with that chiropractic principle that God put the most amazing healing power in your brain. And that controls every cell, every tissue, every organ. It creates the macrophages, the little cells that go around and kill your viruses that you're exposed to, and all the other immune responses that happen that we don't even understand yet, right? We think we know it, but how many different processes are happening in your body right now that you have zero clue is happening? And again, we want to sit around in our white coats in our laboratories and make these things and make trillions of dollars a year just infecting our brains with the knowledge that we think we're weak, and then infecting ourselves with the stuff that we create in these laboratories and making more sickness that we're going to create more wealth with later with these these diseases that they create. And it's just this horrible cascading effect. One of my mentors, a great chiropractor that has written a lot of books, said, hey, we need to stop living in fear. We need to start living a life without fear. And the first step toward living a life without fear is understanding that you and your kids are equipped with exactly what you need to heal and function at 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was pretty powerful.
So I think next week is going to be talking about more of this stuff, just not into vaccines, but again, the responses that we get, because we're going to go into this season now where there's fear all over the place. I guarantee you another epidemic, and mark my words, right? It is August 20.
Yeah, so by September.
By September, we're going to have some different something that has shrinking heads, or it's causing bird flu, right? We're going to fly away, or some fear mongering that's going to happen out there that's supposed to kill a bunch of people, and it's going to go all over the place, and it's going to affect the travel of the entire world. And I just want you to, again, understand that you need to turn the TV off and just understand that you have the power and the control to heal.
I mean, even just last week or the week before, our whole entire town got sprayed for mosquitoes because a couple mosquitoes tested positive for the West Nile virus. And so they subjected all of us without the consent of me. Like, I didn't want that stuff sprayed in my yard or around me.
And not only that, a kid came in, he had the flu, right, or something going on. He had a headache, he was sick for 2 days, and right, now he's got the West Nile virus. Like, come on, where did that come from? Well, that came from, again, fear mongering.
So you guys, you've got to start this now in empowering yourself. So maybe it's researching, maybe it's getting this book, Vaccination is Not Immunization. Maybe it's starting to read this stuff. Maybe it is coming to our events. Maybe it's watching all of this stuff. But you have got to start empowering yourself. We've only got a limited amount of words that we can say and we can do. There's a vast majority of things. If you need help kind of sifting through some things, we'll be more than glad to help you. But the reality is that if you don't start taking action, nothing is going to change. And we can make a major shift in our healthcare if we start taking action. But it takes a huge group of people to band together and to work together and to make sure that we're going towards a common goal. And the common goal is not a lack of flu shots or vaccines or anything like this. The common goal is to have empowerment inside of ourselves to be able to tap into that ability to heal, that ability to work and do what we need to do without somebody telling you, you're weak, you can't do this, you're going to be beaten down. There's no way that they even know what you're capable of. It says even in the Bible that God has the ability to do exceedingly abundantly more than we can even think or imagine. And so we've got to sit tight on those truths. We've got to sit tight on those realities and those promises that we have. We've got to stand firm on those.
Everywhere I speak, there's two different things that I go through. I'm either drained or I'm empowered. And right now I'm empowered, so I know that this message, even this last 5 minutes, is going to completely transform and even save someone's life. But we need your help to get out there and get this message out. And I'm getting emotional because, again, I've seen this happen with babies, and it's real. But it's not real until it happens to you. So please do us a favor, like this and share it and get this message out to as many people as we can. And Friday, we're going to see you for 5 Essential Friday. Again, like this and share it. Get on to iTunes, give us a 5-star review, and let us know what you think about this.
Subscribe to it. We'll get weekly updates, and we just want you to become a part of our tribe, part of our crew.
So awesome. Tea Time with the Judges out, and we will talk to you next Tuesday.